Hey guys. Woo. Day 16. Day 16. In no particular order. And in absolutely no, not in 30 days. Okay. Anyway, I wanted to, I have a few things I'm going to talk about tonight. Join in. Don't join in. If you're bored, if you're frustrated with the Packer game, maybe you're frustrated with the Packer game. I got people upstairs frustrated with the Packer game. So, here I am. I'm going to talk. But I do have something I'm going to talk about, and then I kind of would think it would be fun if you guys want to comment and ask some questions. And if you don't, that's fine too. And if you watch on the replay and you have questions after, ask away. But first of all, oh wait, hold on. I'm looking for something here. Okay. So have you guys ever heard this verse? It's actually from the Bible, but you've probably heard it maybe in a lot of secular settings too. Where there is lack of vision, the people will perish. And I believe it comes from Proverbs. I believe. I should have wrote that down exactly. Like, I'm pretty confident it comes from Proverbs, but I'm not sure. But it is a biblical verse. And where there is a lack of vision, the people will perish. And obviously what's being talked about there is a lack of vision in terms of faith in the Lord, where everything as a Christian should be done, determined, decided with Christ as the guide, right? Doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes. Doesn't mean you're not going to make wrong choices. Sometimes we don't always put Christ in those decisions, right? We're human. We're sinful. We're all those things. But where there's a lack of vision, the people will perish. And that is ringing more true and true every day, right? We sometimes lose sight of our own vision. It's so easy to get distracted. Hold on a second here. I got music playing and I have no idea. Just, talk amongst yourselves. But yeah, if you guys are popping in, October's almost here. What are you guys excited for October? How about that? What are some visions you have for October? What are some goals? What are some plans? What are you looking forward to? I know right now our high school team is like rocking in football. And as a mom who had two older boys who had 7 years of drought, I always call it the 7 years of drought. This has been just a phenomenal year. They're 6-0. I have a junior playing. Pretty fun, pretty darn fun. Love seeing those senior moms too. So excited. Maybe that's something you really have. It's okay to have things to look forward to on this side of heaven. All right. God He wants us to enjoy earth. There's a lot of negative things out there. There's a lot of stresses out there. And that's just how it's going to be, but it doesn't mean you can't enjoy life either. So what are you looking forward to? What are you looking forward to this October? November, December. We're 3 months out from the end of the year. What is your 1 month goal? What is something you're looking forward to in the month of October? What is something you're looking forward to in November? It's okay to write those things down, to have a goal, to have something to look forward to. That is okay. So here's what I want to talk about. I love Ed Milet. He has awesome podcasts. And so a lot of what I'm going to talk about is stuff that he talked about on one of the podcasts I recently listened to. But as human beings, we gravitate towards things that are familiar. All right. Ideas that are familiar. But here's the thing that can kind of get twisted. Maybe you grew up in a unstable home, an abusive home. Maybe you had an alcoholic father, an alcoholic mother, and just an unstable environment growing up, okay? It is natural to gravitate towards what was familiar to you. So this sounds crazy, but one thing like Ed said in his podcast is like, I gravitate towards chaos. And as someone as just well-poised, amazing as Ed Milet, you'd be like, chaos? But that's how he grew up. He grew up in a home with an alcoholic father who became a recovering alcoholic. So much of his adult life, he grew in relationship with his father. He loved his dad. They had a great relationship. But those years growing up were very unstable. You know, he talked about like not knowing, is dad going to come home tonight? Is he going to come home and be angry? Is he going to come home and, you know, whatever. And so if you were brought up in that environment as an adult, you can naturally gravitate towards that, even though it's not healthy. All right. But if you recognize those things as unhealthy, then you can tell yourself like, oh my goodness, this is why I'm gravitating towards this because of XYZ, because my mom was abusive and an alcoholic, my dad, blah, 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 whatever. The first step in anything, in any kind of recovery or healing is always acknowledgement. So you acknowledge that. And then you don't just go, oh, great, I'm doomed. Like, this is it. This is all I'm going to ever gravitate towards is chaos. No, that's not the problem. But you can recognize that, and then you can move towards the solutions for a breakthrough. The best people you can help in life are the people that you used to be just like them. Because really, you still are them. You've just gone through a process of healing. You are the most capable of helping that person. If your dad was an alcoholic, you are the most capable of helping that person whose dad is an alcoholic, and now they're struggling and just throwing their life away. Not the psychologist that sits on the other side of the chair and tries to give you, and God bless them, there's some beautiful ones out there. But if they have never been in that situation, they can have all the scientific and the psychological ways of helping that person. You are still the most qualified person to help that person that you used to be. Okay? So if you find yourself gravitating towards chaos, towards a loneliness, towards pulling away from, you know, whatever it is, there's a reason for that. So recognize it, accept it, but that's not where it ends. That's just where it starts. All right? And everyone has fear. So there's a book that was written, like, goodness, I think it was even before the Depression was written, Napoleon Hill. Now, it's called Think and Grow Rich, and there's parts of this book I like, there's parts I don't. My husband did a great sermon today in church on stewardship and money again, talking about the rich man and Lazarus, and how Lazarus was this man who, when you would see him on the outside, he would be that person that you would maybe be like, ooh. You know, he was poor. He wasn't dressed very well. He literally had sores from like head to toe, laying in the street that the wild dogs would come and lick his sores. And this was not, I mean, I know they always say like dogs have cleaner saliva than humans, but this was not a good thing. This was someone that was so given up on life that he didn't even care that he was laying there and the dogs were licking his sores. And then there was this rich man who had all the wealth and all the things in the world that he thought he needed. But he wouldn't even look at this despicable Lazarus. What did his parents do? What did, you know, this lazy piece of whatever? And how often do we don't see it a ton. Well, I shouldn't say that, depending on where you live. In my city, I see it. I see it way more than I used to, but it's not as much as you would see it in LA, New York, Atlanta, you know, Detroit, whatever. Literally people, just entire communities of homeless people without jobs. And it's easy to have a stigma right away. Ooh, you know, it's not always often our first reaction to just jump in and help that person. And, you know, we have these reservations. And so that was the story that my husband talked about, or the parable that my husband talked about today. But how these two opposite ends in the world completely ended up flipping, because Lazarus, who looked like the epitome of what nobody would want here on earth, actually had the faith in Christ as his savior. And the rich man, he didn't need anyone. He didn't need a savior. He had it all. And so when it flipped, and this rich man was now in hell, separated from God. And again, like my husband said, it's not just some place with a guy with horns that's, you know, pulling pranks on you. It is eternal damnation. It is real. Okay? Hell is real. And he was now there. And he was just begging for a touch of water on his tongue to relieve his unbelievable pain and suffering and thirst. And the answer was no. Because he had an entire time of grace on earth. And he thought he had it all. He was his own God. His money, his riches, his wealth was his God. And so that's the reality. It's a parable or stories told with a heavenly meaning. So they are truthful. And so anyway, back to the Napoleon Hill book, Think and Grow Rich. There's good aspects of it and there's humanistic aspects of it. So I'm not saying go read this book, but there are 6 fears that every human experiences. And like all people, everybody suffer from at least one of these. If you only suffer from one, you are considered like, whoa, you're kind of an anomaly. Most people suffer from at least half of these. Two for sure. Okay. So the first one, and I'm going from the bottom on up. The first one's poverty. The second one up is criticism, the fear of criticism. The third one up is ill health. The fourth one up is loss of love of someone. So not the loss, not the death of someone you love, the actual loss of love you felt you had from somebody. The second one is old age and missing moments. And then the top one is death. So everyone suffers from at least one of these, like on a pretty consistent basis. Okay. It's a real fear. And out of those fears is where you get stress and anxiety. Okay. Because stress and anxiety aren't just something that you go to bed, you wake up and you're like, I'm stressed, I'm anxious. Like there's a reason you have a physical stress or physical anxiety. And those are the top 6 fears. Okay. If we would focus on just the 5th one down, so not even like the top 3, the 5th one down, the fear of criticism. I see that in so many people, and they may not even admit it, but you can see it from the actions they take in life. They pull back from so many things that they want to do, that they have a real passion to do, but the one thing that stops them is criticism from either a loved one or someone they don't hardly even really know, or someone they've known in their past. They will literally give up on a dream goal, a vision. Again, remember, where there's lack of vision, people will perish. They will literally give up on that because of criticism. All right. So a quote from, I don't know if it was Napoleon Hill, but I love it. Success requires no excuses. Failure permits no alibi. Success requires no excuses. Failure permits no alibi. Here are some flips of the script that you can maybe start to use in your own head. Because nobody naturally is built positive. Just like you have to exercise your muscles to become stronger, just like you have to exercise saying no to things to gain self-discipline. Those are all things that require action, and that's why people have them. They weren't just gifted with it. So if you see somebody like that, like, man, wish I could be like that. They didn't wish to be like that. They exercised the steps that it took to be like that, and they're continuing to be like that. So say you're 55, and you're like, well, I'm 55. Whatever. Doesn't matter anymore. It's too late. How about taking that thought, too late, and going, what a flippin' story I could tell if I achieved this. You have 2 options. You can either say it's too late, sit back, do nothing, and just waste your life. Or you could have a goal of saying, but what a story I could tell if I did achieve this. Here's another one. And this is a really, really, really big one. Many people, okay, sure, Sarah. Yeah, you're saying all this, but I know that you had a stable home. Your parents stayed together. They didn't get divorced. You didn't have abusive parents. You weren't physically abused. You didn't have alcoholic drug parents. You didn't have insert X, Y, Z. You're right. Okay. But I have very, very close family members who were in that situation. And here's what I'll tell you. And relation, okay? Family, close family. We're talking my dad's sibling. Same situation, same abuse, same cycle. And not all those 4 kids turned out the same. There have been ones that, there was one specifically that earlier on chose, I'm done. I'm changing this. Another one went through some hard times. And if she's watching this, I love you. 6 kids, single mom, crushing life right now. Okay, I don't say crushing like she doesn't have any problems, but she floors me every single day because she has had nothing handed to her. And then there's 2 siblings in that mix, not so much. So you can have really, really hard hand dealt to you, right? But if you use that as your excuse, then you're not going to be able to change. How about, this is true. This happened to me. But it's not serving me, and it's not serving anyone else, and it's not serving my kids, and it's not serving my spouse, and it is not serving how I want to live my life. So why do we think it's wrong as Christians sometimes to actually have huge, bold, God-sized dreams? Like, we can't even fathom the mind of God, first of all. So why not have big, huge, bold, God-sized dreams? If it doesn't happen that way, fine. God has a better plan for you. But when you limit that, you're saying that you don't think your God can, well, the God, you don't think God can do that. Why not live in the knowing that everything is going to work out perfect anyway? So I'm going to live in this positive frame of mind of having a huge, bold, God-sized dream. Okay? Maybe I was abandoned at 14. Maybe I was abused. Maybe I was, every excuse under the sun. And you're right. The people that didn't have that, they don't have that battle. But there's people who had everything perfectly set up for them that way, and then totally went and threw their life away. Because, again, it came down to the choice of, does this serve me and serve others? They didn't care. It does not matter what happened to you. It matters what you do from that point on. It matters what you take from what happened to you and find a way to say, well, this didn't serve me, but I know how I can help others. I know how I can now help others who have gone through this. And just by doing that, I will tell you, the changes you will see in your life are incredible. And I've seen the miracles happen within my own family. So there you go. Depth perception issues are another problem. When you think, okay, let me talk about depth perception. So getting older, 46, eyes aren't so great as they used to be. And I've always had pretty good vision. I don't have like any prescription glasses yet, but I'm wearing a lot of readers. I will go to a football game and my friends and I always laugh because every time a field goal is kicked, I'm like, yay. And it totally didn't go in. And then the ones that go in, I'm like, ooh. And then the ref's like, woo. And I'm like, what? Like my depth perception watching football goals, field goals, terrible. All right. Same thing in your life. The depth perception you have with the issues in your life are oftentimes so off. Like the ref was right there. He called it. It was in. Like everyone else around me is like, Sarah, that was in. But I didn't see it. I thought it went out. Good thing I'm not the ref. It's the same thing with life. We oftentimes think something is so much farther off than it actually is. Because our depth perception's off. Why do you think people that struggle with anorexia look in a mirror and see like an obese, disgusting person when they're 92 pounds? Like, because their perception is warped. And that doesn't mean, that's a very extreme view of it. But like so often people think things are so much farther off than they are and they just quit. And I don't know if you've ever seen those like pictures where someone's like in a mine and he's just chipping away for days, weeks, months, years, whatever. And then it shows like how he has like in half an inch to like the whole gold mine. And that guy just finally walks away because he's like, I've been doing this for months. I'm not getting anywhere. And so then the next guy comes in and chips for maybe, 30 swings, and boom. He gets that. He gets the prize because you gave up. Because we want everything immediately. We put time frames on things. Why are we putting time frames on things when we don't even know what that time frame is actually going to be? We set these unrealistic goals. Our depth perception's off. And then we give up, and then the next person swoops in and gets all of those things that you worked for because you gave up. Because we think we have to reap all the rewards immediately. And I've done it. I've done it so many times. And it's why I get frustrated all the time. I think, ugh. But then that's where it stops. Like I let myself have maybe a 5-minute pity party, and I get right back on the saddle and I go because I know it's going to come. I just don't know when. So it's a mind thing. Like you can train your mind to think differently. All pain is temporary. All right. And any chick out there who's had a kid will tell you that. So remember that. Whether you've had one birth or 12, when you are in the midst of labor pain, you literally, I remember my sister-in-law telling me this once. She said, it feels like you have one toe left on earth and the rest of your body's gone. Like you are that close to dying. That's sometimes how it feels. But you don't give up because something in you, and I just truly believe it's God, gives you that strength, that ending strength to just keep going. Your mind gets completely warped in labor. And then this child comes. Same thing with any kind of pain in life. No matter how painful it is, it's going to be temporary. That pain, it doesn't mean you're not going to have more pain. It just means that pain is temporary. And that's what you have to keep focusing on. When people in like concentration camps, the death camps, or any type of martyr that was held under, extreme, prisoners of war, held under these extreme, like we can't even fathom what they went through. And not that the ones who didn't make it were weak, but those ones who made it through. The only difference, and I want to be careful how I say this because sometimes it's just, there were people, when I think about that, I'm like, man, I would have given up. But the more pain you have on this life and then you get through it, it gives you that much more confidence to know the next time, okay, I did it 12 times before. I guess if it happens again, I can do it again. You never know what you're going to be. You never know what situation you're going to be put into. But if you can just keep telling yourself, no matter what the outcome, this is temporary. This is temporary. It gives you that one more, the power of one more, right? Ed Milet's book, The Power of One More step, one more breath, one more hour, one more second, one more minute. Like what did I heard something the other day, Erica Kirk, when she was talking about when her husband was coming back on Air Force 2 or whatever that was, 1, 2, I don't remember. And they were bringing his body back in the casket, and Usha, I forget what her name is, J.D. Vance's wife, was with her. And she said something, Erica Kirk said something like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I can do this. I don't know how I can do this. And she said, when you're on a plane with your kids. Now, I don't fly a ton, and I've actually only flown once with a baby. But I'm obviously the Vances, the Kirks, all those people fly all the time, and they have little kids. And she said, when you're on a plane, you're on a long flight, and you have 15 minutes left, and your kids are out of control. Like they've had time changes. When little toddlers melt down, right? Like there's absolutely no reasoning with a toddler that has melted down and they're now on like their third wind. It's just like, dear God, get me through this. But if you're on a plane where like you have nowhere to go, that 15 minutes can feel like an eternity. And she said, this is your 15 minutes. You're going to get through this. Don't think about tonight. Don't think about tomorrow. Just think about being on that plane with your toddlers that are absolutely losing their minds. And you have 15 minutes to landing. 15 minutes. Right? So that was just so good for me to hear. Here's another thing I heard. When you always have this pressure on yourself, who are you going to be versus what are you going to be? This one stood out to me too, because he talked about like kids today who are going off to college. I have one that's out of college now. I have one that's third year in college. What is like the number one question? By the way, I will just encourage you all, don't ask this to kids. All right. I know it's just it's a common thing we do to fill in, we like to fill in voids. We like to fill in silence. So, and I've done it. I have done it. It's like, why do we do this? But like you go to a graduation party, you're like, so what are you going to do? Where are you going to college? What do you want to be? Okay. Kids today, especially at 18, like there's a very minute, tiny group of kids that maybe have a kind of clue what they want to do. Just don't ask them. Maybe just say, hey, what are your plans after high school? What do you got? What do you want to do? What are you looking forward to? But really the question is not what are you going to do? Who are you going to be? What a question we could ask kids these days instead of what are you going to do? Who are you going to be? I mean, they may look at you with like you have 5 heads because they do a lot at that age anyway. But the pressure these kids have right now, it's just a different world. It's different from me, the 90s, the 80s. Who are you going to be? Who can you help? Who can you serve? All right. Maybe you're going in to be a plumber with your dad and your grandpa because they've had that business for 65 years. Awesome. Who are you going to be? Like when you go into a home to fix their plumbing, strike up a conversation with the owner. Get to know them. Find a common ground with every person you meet. And if possible, in that moment, be able to give them a hope for the reason that you have to live. Now, this is coming from a Christian perspective, but that's all that matters. Seriously, all the other stuff will come. All right, God will provide if you focus on Him and who you're going to be versus what you're going to do. Another thing that he mentioned was weakness isn't kindness. And I was like, ooh, that's good. We often think that by, if we have conversations with people and then, oops, crossroad, disagreement here, this person doesn't think exactly like I do. And so we think that by being weak in that moment, so say this person is saying something that totally contradicts your morals, your values, whatever. But you have like 18 other things in this conversation that you two have in common. But now this big thing comes up. And so you shut down and you're just like, oh, yeah. And you become weak because you think that's kind. No. Because first of all, take yourself out of the picture. What are you teaching your kids when you teach them that weakness is kindness? Think about all the things that have happened in this world to kids in terms of abuse, in a family situation, a grandparent, an uncle, whatever. and they felt like saying no was being a bad kid or unkind. Now, this isn't to put guilt on people because again, like, if I haven't lived it, I've had someone very close to me who has lived it. I'm just telling you, weakness is not kindness. On the flip side, being harsh and brass and snippy and condescending and attacking someone's character is also not kind. But you can make a very strong point against something that completely contradicts your values without attacking that person's character and their morals and their values. And you can do that plain as day, and that person can either take it or flip it and turn it around on you, which does happen, and it happens way too often. But that's coming from a place of hurt in them. Here's an example. I reached out to someone the other day who had accepted my friend request because we had like 50 some friends. And yeah, no secret that I have a home business and I help people with their health. I'm not hiding that. But I never, ever reach out to people about anything I do without getting to know who they are, what they do, about their life. So if you accept a friend request on social media, which is where we tend to live these days, I'm not just going to request you and then never get to know you. I'm going to find a way to get to know you. If you show up in my feed, I'm going to comment on something that your kids did, whatever. But if someone accepts my request and it immediately shows up that they accept it and I happen to be on, I send them a general, hey, so nice to meet you. I see we have a ton of friends in common. I love to network. I'm a mom of 4. My husband's a pastor. I like to do this, this, and this. It's a very general welcome email. Yep. Is it copy and pasted? Yep. But I wrote it and I tweak it all the time to fit the person I'm talking to. But we also have 24 hours in a day, right? And there's no, like, if you don't want to accept my friend request, 5 mutual friends, but I don't know why you're accepting me, just don't accept it. But if you accepted me, then let's get to know each other, or let's get out of here, because that's stupid. Like, everything should be about connection. And I immediately got accused of being like, it was really mean. It was really mean. And then she just ended up blocking me. And all I did was introduce myself. I didn't say anything else. I didn't even say I did a business. I just said I was a health and wellness coach, a personal trainer. A personal trainer meaning I've always been hired by other places to be a personal trainer, a group fitness instructor, a mom of 4, my husband's a pastor. And I was attacked for that. And so that is showing there's something in that person that's very, very fragile, and something has really hurt them. And the only thing sometimes I get kind of bummed out about is like, well, shoot, that I can't really get to know this person. But you know what? I've done lives before that talk about, I grew up in this environment. Just being a pastor's kid. If I breathed the wrong way, I was criticized. So you've got to stop being who you are. No, you've got to stop not being who you are out of that fear. Remember, one of those top fears, those top 6 fears of criticism? You just got to stop. You've just got to be you, because nobody is everyone's cup of tea. But if you're trying to constantly be a chameleon to fit everyone's desires and wants of you, you'll end up absolutely alone, because you'll forget who you are at all. You've got to stay true to who you are. Sometimes it's not doing more. It's eliminating something that's not serving you. Oof, this was a big one for me. So oftentimes moms, we are like, I'm not doing enough. I don't do X, Y, Z. If I do more, I should have more success in my weight loss, my income, my whatever it is. But not just sometimes, oftentimes it's not about doing more. It's eliminating the things that aren't serving you. And some examples would just be alcohol, staying up late, social media, Netflix binging, constant like group chats and communication where really all you're doing is gossiping. And hello, Guilty as charged. All right. But these are all things that I've really tried to work on and pull back and pull back and pull back, because I don't have to do more. I have to eliminate those things that aren't serving me for the goals that I have. And that's going to be different for me. It's going to be different for you. So that's just something that you have to really sit down and be like, man, what could I do? Or what could I take out that I'm doing that is completely holding me back? Again, that's going to be something that you have to figure out. You don't have to tell people either. You don't have to make an announcement. You don't have to like social media post it like, guess what, guys? I'm not going to do this anymore. Like, no, like this is a personal thing between you that nobody even else has to know. But you just know it's not serving you. Play chess when everyone else is playing checkers. There's that saying that's like, oh, it's lonely at the top. Actually, it's not. Sometimes it's way lonelier at the bottom. Those days when like you were in high school and you felt like you had the FOMO, or that, you weren't invited to this because you were trying to be in the big circle. But really, as you got older, you're like, man, I didn't even like most of those people. Like, I didn't necessarily hate them, but like, I really didn't enjoy their company. It's actually not lonely at the top. And I don't mean the top like you're better than anyone. It's just, you have a vision. Where there's no vision, the people perish. You have a vision. And so there's going to be these like, like when you run through, remember that, okay, there's been a couple movies like this. I don't know, was it End of the Spear? No, I love historical movies, but like when the Native Americans of like the 1800s would capture somebody, they had this thing called the gauntlet, okay? And the person, the captive, whoever it was, had to like run through, it was like two sides of men, right? Holding like everything from hatchets to those like chain ball things. I'm really good at descriptions, right? Just lots of very medieval looking type of like terrible weapons. Some of them would just come out and like drop kick somebody, but they had to like run through this gauntlet and try to fight off. It was like one person against everybody else. And if they got to the end, they like made it. And oftentimes they didn't make it. It's kind of how life is. Like, you're running through this gauntlet of just pressures and attacks from Satan and his demons and temptations. And like, you just have to keep going because you have the one, the creator with you, above you, behind you, in front of you, beside you, within you. You have everything. You just have to go. Sometimes you just have to, we usually tell our kids like, why didn't you think? Think before you do stuff. Sometimes like when you get to be adult, sometimes it's like, no, stop thinking. You know what to do. Stop thinking. Just do it. People are often looking for your downfall. Now, not the real people in your life, not the people who really love you. Okay. But the people sometimes that you thought loved you, or, were on your side, were in your corner, whatever. Oftentimes they aren't. And they're actually kind of looking for your downfall. So there's this big conundrum right now of the whole eagle and the crow. And well, that's made up. That's not really a story. So really the whole point of that eagle and the crow is, no, the eagle doesn't, the crow doesn't sit on the eagle's back and then peck, and then the eagle soars so high that the crow loses oxygen and falls off. That's not true. I looked it up. ChatGPT told me. No, I did look it up though. But it is semi-true, because what it is that the eagle does just start flying because that's what it does. It just flies and it soars higher. And there gets a point where the eagle just lets go because he's like, well, this is lame. Like, I'm not getting anything out of this anymore. So there is some truth to that story. But that is what the eagle does. It doesn't try to like turn around. I don't think it can. Can eagles do that? Owls can. I don't know, whatever. It can't like, turn around and try to attack the crow on its back. It just gets out of the situation in this like simple manner of just soaring higher. So when you have all these people that are hurting your feelings or celebrating your downfalls, and maybe usually it's secretively, it's not always, right out in the open, but don't nitpick back. Don't try to yell at them. Don't try to convince them with all your smart little words. Trust me, I've tried. Doesn't work. Just soar higher. Just keep going. Just keep going higher, and eventually they'll fall off. Because for some reason they don't want to be at the top. They like the chaos. They want to stay in the chaos. Never do a deal when you're desperate. So I probably don't have to say a whole lot with that. I think there's things that can come to our mind when you think desperation. And I think we all know people that, I mean, when I think of mothers who have done things that they never would have done 10 years before because they're in a desperate situation to keep their kids alive and fed. First of all, do all these things prior so you don't get to that point. But if you ever got to that point, then that was just a point. And you don't, looking back is never something, even when we look back on good things in our past. Now, that's okay occasionally, but if you're always living in this, oh man, back when I was in high school, man, I was captain of the cheerleading team, and I wasn't fat. Now I'm fat because I'm a mom. You get in those conversations with moms, right? Or dads, or the dads with the beer bellies. Oh man, I was quarterback. We went to state. And they talk about it all the time. But now they're 45 and drinking every night and just barely making it by and have some debt. And they're either divorced or struggling in their marriage. And they're always looking back at what they were when they were 17. Oh my word. That is one of the most dangerous things you can do. Because you haven't, if you're always comparing it to that, then you're just continuing to go down. The past is the past for a reason. I mean, why does the Bible say, with sin, God literally separates our sin from the east to the west? And he's God, so he can do this. We can't, but he literally forgets it, doesn't have any, because he's God. He chooses to not have any remembrance and knowledge. So why are we, is that going to serve you? I mean, if that's going to prompt you to make better choices and to do better and to strive more, then great. But that's oftentimes not what you see. You see these people living in the past, that was it. That was their absolute peak. And so I'm just going to keep living in that. No, that doesn't serve you at all. So if you're in desperate times, don't make deals when you're desperate. Now that doesn't mean, okay, you're desperate. Someone's handing you a solution to get out of the desperation. It's a step up. That's different. We're talking about I'm desperate. So someone's offering you something that can temporarily get you out of that situation. And I mean in the next 24 hours, maybe the next couple days. And so you literally almost sell your soul for just a couple days. No. If you've made it this long in that desperation, you can make it another day. It's when someone gives you a solution that shows you that solution is going to bring you up and then keep you up versus a 24-hour fix. And then you're going to be lower than you were before. So that's kind of what that means. So yeah, that's what I want to talk about tonight. I wrote it all down. You proud of me? Anyway, we have an exciting week coming tomorrow, starting tomorrow, Monday. And then Thursday, I head out and I fly to Vegas for our convention. We've got exciting things coming. I know you see me talking about all the time, but it's true. And here's what I'll say. If you have opportunities given to you to bring you in a space of a community that's going to support you and uplift you, and you're in a not healthy space right now, maybe it's a really good time to look at doing that. Things don't just get better when we sit back and cross our fingers and then, curl up on the couch and put a blanket over our head and just hope tomorrow everything magically is better. Nope. There will be no goal, no vision that doesn't come without a lot of work. But it's so rewarding because remember, man was made to work. And I don't know. I mean, literally everything that we can and should do is given to us in the Bible, given to us from God. It's all there. We just got to do it. So, all right, guys, have a great night. Have a great start to your